To the Briarheart02 YouTube channel. Today, I am doing the second installment of Introducing My Girlfriend to Doctor Who. Alright, so last night, you and I watched a second Doctor story called Tomb of the Cybermen.
Yeah.
So, we're gonna hop right into the characters, and I'm gonna
I was
ask,
just gonna go with my initial overall opinion first.
do you want to?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. What did you think of
Okay.
this one?
Well, I found it very hard to stay what's the word? Stay into it. Like I literally drew a crown on the head flower crown on the hedgehog I was drawing because I couldn't stay focused onto the video or the movie or whatever it is.
Well, do you think that's
Um
because of the fact that the video we're using this thing called cast to watch it because obviously we can't watch it together in the same room because Corona. But do you think that's partially due to the fact that cast kept lagging a bit?
well, no, because I could still hear what was going on,
Okay.
but I just didn't find it very. It didn't grasp my attention, making me want to see what was going to happen next. I felt that it was way too predictable. Um, like, pretty much after the first part of it, I was like, I feel like I know what's going to happen next.
And did you know what was going to happen next?
Yes, I knew what was going to happen next. And I knew how it was going to end. I was like, this is most likely how it's going to end.
So you predicted Toberman dying.
I did not predict that part.
But you did predict that the Doctor and his friends would just seal the Cybermen back inside their tombs.
Yeah. I was like, they're just gonna be like, skeet, I'm out of here.
And I mean, you're not entirely wrong. I have a lot of nostalgia for this one because have I told you my Doctor Who origin story? My dad had a huge collection of VHS tapes when I was
Yes, you told me your uh, uh, backstory of it.
Alright, so this is one of the ones we had on VHS, and it was one of the ones I watched a lot. Now, I actually have an interesting fun fact for you about this story.
Alright.
For a long time, this episode was lost. Like, no footage existed. Audio existed, but it only existed on a cassette tape, and it was very hard to find. And for a while, until it was rediscovered in, like, Nigeria or something, this was considered the best Doctor Who story. It was considered like, oh, if we had this one back, it would be amazing because the story is just so rich, so great. The script is on point. It's one of the best things to come out of the show. Then it came back, and everybody was kind of just like, it's okay.
Felt that.
So this one has sort of like a phantom past to it where it was once highly regarded and now is still highly regarded but isn't doesn't quite appear in everybody's favorites list.
Excuse me.
But yeah, I have a lot of nostalgia for this one because I watched it a lot when I was younger. So I think whenever I watch it I probably have nostalgia goggles on. So
For someone without any nostalgia for it, it was very, very uninteresting. Um,
so would you say you liked this one then?
no.
No?
Pretty sure the entire time I was going with, I didn't like it
Okay.
as much.
So compared so we'll just get this out of the way right now. Compared to the last one we watched, the Aztecs.
I liked that one a lot better because it kept me interested in it. It kept me not knowing what was going to happen next. And the
Alright.
other, and this the one we just watched was kind of just bland. I didn't enjoy it.
All right. These are some very interesting takes you're coming up with because, as someone who basically hears the same, you know, opinions from the fandom, this is really interesting for me to see. All right. So overall, you didn't like Tomb of the Cybermen. I'm gonna force you to get into some of the nitty gritty. So, what do you think of the second Doctor, Patrick Troughton as the Doctor?
Um, I don't know. He's, in a sense, still like the first Doctor. Um, However, I didn't like that he was kind of like egging the other guys to do something and then act them having them be like, "Oh my god, I did it myself. Oh my gosh."
Klieg.
Hmm?
So you didn't like that he was deceiving people the entire time.
Yeah.
Can I ask you to elaborate on that? Why not? What do you find particularly wrong with that, unsettling about it?
Well, it was then technically his fault that they found um the actual tomb, and then he kind of like led him on and like helped him to where he could open the tomb. So it was technically his fault the entire tomb opened in the first place.
That's a good point. You're right. You're completely right on that. It is kind of his fault, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Because that entire first episode is him saying, "We shouldn't open the tomb. We shouldn't open the
But
tomb.
here's how you should do it.
But here's how you should do it." So
Yeah.
I don't know. It makes me wonder if he had an ulterior motive in opening it up. Do you think? Because one of the things that is established by this point is the Doctor has this natural curiosity that gets him involved in things he probably shouldn't be involved in. So that might be why that happens, but it's it is a very odd example of that. I'm not gonna lie, it's a bit weird.
Yeah, because I was just kind of sitting there like, you're literally telling them what to do and then telling them not to do it.
You know, this is a bit shit, isn't it? Like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
I
It's
don't
like
know.
it's like it's like telling a child, here's the cookie jar and here's how you open it, but you can't have any cookies.
Yep.
Like why would you do that? It would make a child very
Or
upsetty
my
spaghetti.
the thing that always gets me is I never understand why he's because I don't know if it was freezing in this scene, but there's this bit where Klieg is about to open the hatch and he's getting the equations wrong, and the Doctor has stated multiple times that he does not want to open the hatch, and then he does something behind
He
Klieg's
presses a
back.
button.
Yeah, he presses a button that
Mm-hmm.
ends up making it open.
Because that one was that's when he did that. I was like, you literally just said you don't want it to open, yet you know how to open it and helped with the opening of it. And he's like, oh my god, it's all his fault.
I wonder if the novel has an explanation for this.
Because it seems kind of like a curiosity kills the cat, but he won't let it be blamed on him. So he gets other people curious, helps them with opening it, and then be like, "Oh my god, you weren't supposed to do that."
Shit, you have exposed a new side to the second Doctor that makes him look like a complete and utter asshole that I was not aware of.
See, I was like watching it with a more analytical side. I was like, I have no attachments to these characters really, so like if I judge them from an outsider's point of view, I can judge them more harshly.
Which is what I want you to do with this, because the whole point of me doing this is like getting an outsider's perspective on it.
I mean, again, I still have no attachments to these characters.
Exactly, so it works out. Okay, so he's still very doctory to you, but he's a bit of a
Hmm.
dick. He's a bit of a
Yeah,
he's a bit of an irresponsible asshole. One one
yeah.
one thing I want to ask you about is I don't know if you had stopped paying attention by this point, but there's a scene later on in the story. I think I gave you the context for it. Victoria's father died in the previous story, and the doctor sort of adopted her into his
Hmm.
crew. And that scene where it's just the two of them, everybody else is asleep, and they're discussing their family. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I was paying attention during that.
What did you think of that scene specifically for both those characters?
Well, it was kind of touching.
Kind of touching?
Um, I kind of paid attention to it. I kind of didn't. Um, but it was kind of like a small heart to heart. But it was kind of like, how do you remember your family if you're 400 years old? Like, I don't know. It
Good
was more of
question.
getting a sense of it was of the doctor than her,
Right, that's.
which didn't really help because he was kind of vague about it from what I paid attention to.
Well, part of his thing is he's meant to be vague about his past. Don't worry, it'll be less vague as we continue. But, yeah.
He seemed very vague in general throughout the entire thing. It was like he wouldn't explain why he didn't want you to do something, or like with the little buggy things. He was
Cybermens.
like, yeah, he didn't explain what they did. He was just like, don't touch it.
Oh, you missed the explanation for that. They feed on human brainwaves.
Oh no, I knew the explanation for that because I think one of the Cybermen explained it.
Well,
I don't know if the doctor
the
explained it.
doctor explained it to Jamie.
What I heard was that he was like, um, oh, it's this thing. Don't touch it. So she put it in her pocket.
All right. So let's talk about the two companions who are with him. Actually, no. Let me backtrack just a bit. So I'm gonna ask you this now, and it's gonna get more complicated as we go on. But
You should
for
write a script.
first, thanks.
You're welcome.
First Doctor or Second Doctor?
What about them?
Which do you prefer?
Um, I liked the first Doctor a lot more. He seemed to have more personality than the second Doctor. Um,
You.
with his, um, I don't know. He just seemed to have more personality. Like with the side part where he was like falling in love with this woman and stuff like that.
All right. So let's talk about the two companions now. We'll start with Victoria, damsel in distress. I think you called
Damsel.
her.
Yeah, I said she was a damsel in distress because from the beginning she seemed to know nothing of what she was doing. She seemed to go along with whatever the doctor would say, but wouldn't go along with what anybody else would say and be like, "No, I can do it myself," and then somehow not fail.
So,
Um, I saw her as more of a I don't know the word because words are failing to reach me. Um, an obstacle. She seemed more of an obstacle than an actual help. She was just there to be there. Um,
okay. So, I'm getting from what I'm getting from Victoria is something similar that I got to Susan from last time.
yeah, but she wasn't as annoying.
Who wasn't as annoying, Victoria or Susan?
Victoria, she wasn't as annoying as Susan. She
Okay.
seemed like she wanted to try and help, where Susan was like, no, I do what I want.
Okay.
And Victoria was like, I want to be able to do this. And everybody was like, no, you're not allowed. You have to stay up here and do nothing.
Okay.
Instead of like actually taking the time and trying to teach her what was going on and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Because I don't know how old she was, but she looked like she was 20, but she acted more like she was 16, but unknowing of things.
She
She
was
seemed.
she was meant to be about 16ish.
Hmm,
All right. So, not a particularly high opinion of the mains so far. Um, what about Jamie?
he was the one wearing a skirt, right?
Yeah, he was the Scottish one with the kilt.
Um, I don't know. He seemed also to be one of the characters that also seemed kind of clueless.
Well, there's a reason for that. Probably
He hmm,
he's from like he's basically a Scottish warrior from I want to say the 1700s maybe.
which brings me to the next thing where I was going to say he was adventurous and wanted to know more and grasp every bit of information he could and go out and explore on his own. That's what he seemed like he wanted to do, in my opinion.
Yeah. You've got him pinned down pretty nicely. So, but overall, did you like him?
He seemed pretty chill, pretty alright.
All right. So out of the main three, we've got one out of three that you like.
Yeah.
Great start. All right. All right. So I guess we'll get into the side characters now.
So many.
Well, I'm gonna sort of group some of them together. So let's talk about Klieg and his girlfriend. Klieg, master of the world.
Um, he was insane,
He was
but I
insane.
found it kind of funny that he was like, yes, I can rule the world, a world of these heartless creatures, and not act, and they not want to turn me into one of them.
He was a logician. For some reason, I kept thinking he was saying magician.
That's what I thought you just said.
He was a logical logician.
Um, no.
They're a cult dedicated to logic.
Well,
Would you
obviously they're not doing much for him.
would you say he was a logical human being?
No. Um, I would say he was kind of idiotic and insane.
But
He didn't seem to think of any consequences that could happen to him,
so
even after. Hmm?
what did you think of him as a villain then?
Um, I found him pretty funny,
You
but
found
also many facepalm moments.
any that stand out particularly?
Yes, I can rule the world. That was a big facepalm moment.
Are you talking? Because there's two of those moments.
Both of them were really big facepalm moments. Like, nobody, you can't. And you're not gonna get very far.
Master of the world. Well, now I know you're mad. I just wanted to be sure.
Yeah, that was. I enjoyed that moment.
You enjoyed that moment? Okay.
Yes.
What did you think of Klieg's girlfriend, who I can't remember the name of?
Um, I didn't like her whatsoever. Um,
Like, in a good way, as she was. Alright, explain what you mean by that.
um, I just I know villains aren't supposed to be liked, but some villains are likable. Like you can be like, oh my gosh, he's so bad, I like him, or he's so stupid, I like him. Like you're supposed to make the villains sort of likable characters, but no, um, she was not very good at anything. Um,
So would you say she sucks as a villain, or
she sucks as a character.
okay? But do you think she fulfills her task as a villain in a
No, she
story?
didn't do many villainous things except for try and kidnap Victoria for some reason, and the doctor didn't seem to catch on to that.
Actually, yeah, that does kind of lead to nothing, doesn't it?
Yeah, I was like, what are they going to do with one of the girl who has no idea what's going on? Like, other than be like, I'm holding her hostage, and if you want to leave, you have to get her back. Like, what were you gonna do with that? Like, she didn't. She seemed both of those characters just seemed to be extra things to fill up more time. And that's one of the things that kind of made me uninterested with seeing what was going to happen next. Because a lot
So
of it was them doing nothing
you
or
think
her
if
getting knocked out.
so do you think if it would have just been, the Cybermen come out and Klieg realizes he was wrong about them, that the story would have moved much faster and it would have been slightly more enjoyable?
I feel like they could have also elaborated on what happened on the ending. Not elaborated, but like made the ending better. I didn't like how it ended. I felt like it could have been so much more than it was if those two characters weren't taking up a lot of screen time.
Okay. So how would you have liked it to end then?
Um, I feel like how they escaped was way too easy for um how great Cybermen seemed to be. Like they seemed to be much greater than they were actually played out. Like when they talked about them, they're like, "Oh my god, they're these great human. They're these great things that did bad things, but they're really cool. They have a lot of cool space stuff, futuristic stuff. But then when you actually saw them, and like they didn't seem all too powerful. Like I feel like they could have done more to elaborate on how powerful they were.
Okay. So you would have preferred a more devastating ending than just Toberman dying at the doors.
Yeah, I feel like the the head the what's
Cyber
his name?
controller.
Yeah, him.
King
Thanks
Cockhead himself.
thanks McCafe. I don't need care. Sorry. Um, I feel like he would have been a lot stronger than Toberman because he's fully made out of robotic parts, which are meant to enhance the human body, not hinder it to a man with one robotic arm.
Well, you also have to remember, Toberman had about the strength of a Cyberman before he was converted. So, that's my only argument with that one. But,
I feel like they could have had Toberman under full control and joined their side. If they fully converted him to one of them, then they wouldn't have escaped.
good point, good point, good point. Actually, that is something they don't elaborate on in the story. Why they don't fully convert Toberman.
We're just kind of like, oh yeah, give him an arm and we can telepathically communicate with him.
Oh well. So, what do you think of Toberman then?
Um, I don't know his backstory.
He's just the servant of Klieg and his lady friend.
Yeah, but in the beginning, he seemed to understand more than when the doctor was like, think of the bad guys and stuff like that. And he was kind of like bad and then started smashing things. In the beginning, he seemed more intelligent than in the end.
Well, I think the idea with that is, or at least other Cyberman stories have elaborated on, that part of the conversion process fucks with your brain, and if you're only half converted, I imagine you're only sort of half lucid.
I mean, if they explained that, that would have been a lot easier.
That's probably a context thing I should have just given you right off the
Yeah, I
bat.
was like, I'm kind of going in with little to no context in the
Basically,
beginning.
basically, the Cybermen not only fuck with your body, they fuck with your brain too. So,
Figured that out.
yeah.
Um, but he just, I don't know, he just seemed to be kind of there.
My boy Toberman. I love Toberman. He's my boy.
He was pretty cute, but he was just kind of there.
I remember, remember when he opened the doors, you said, "Big strong boy."
Yeah, big strong boy.
He's lovable, big strong boy. I think. I love him. But that's just me.
I feel like he could be more lovable if we had more of him, for me, because he just kind of was there and then died.
Okay. What about? I'm just gonna lump the various members of the crew together because they all basically say they basically share the same purpose in the
I
story.
mean, I mean, again, they were just kind of there. They were kind of really dumb and also didn't seem to know what they were getting into. And pretty much everyone there, except for I forget his name, the dumb one who decided he could control the world, and his girlfriend. Um, None of them seemed to know what they were doing besides those two and the doctor. And they didn't seem to want to ask questions on, like, hey, what happens if we do this?
Okay.
They were also all kind of like, girls can't do anything, and I understand kind of why, but like, give them a chance, man.
Well, why do you think kind of why? Because that's a very interesting take on it, given our modern day views on such
Yes,
things.
but this was also not written in the modern day.
I'm glad you can recognize that. Oh my. There are so many fights online about how a lot of 60s Doctor Who should be invalid to the current show because of some of the less desirable attitudes back then. And I'm just like,
I mean, it's still a part of it. It's how it was written, and
Doctor
how
Who fans go crazy.
you can
They,
tell.
yeah, yeah. Anyway, so I guess we're on the Cybermen now. They're the only things that are left to talk about as far as characters go.
They sounded like Hubert.
They sounded like Cubert.
Yeah. When they were like all just kind of muttering and it was incoherent, it was like listening to Hubert.
So, what did you think of them?
Um, they were really interesting, and I would like to know more about them, other than bad guy must destroy. like,
So, okay. Hmm.
like I would want to see something of like what made them think that design, like making themselves not human, and
Well, unfortunately, most of the stories that focus on that element are from the 60s. This isn't one of them, obviously. This one's more meant to be just a I guess, a little horror story about basically the undead coming back from their graves. But,
It was very unhorroristic.
well, it's meant to be sort of like Doctor Who does the Mummy. Explorers go into a tomb and awaken an ancient evil.
I mean, I feel like if it's an ancient evil, it should have rained more power and destruction than it did. Like, I
Fair
feel
point.
like they're stronger than two men dying, two or three men dying.
Most of the time they are. I think I'm showing. No, I'm not showing you another one. Never mind. um, I could change it. There's another story later on, but I also want to get you introduced to the Daleks before the new series, so maybe. I don't know. Um, so you would like to see more of the Cybermen then?
Yeah, I just want to know, I want to know more. Like, on the surface, they don't seem very threatening. Based on what I saw, they seemed kind of clueless.
Well,
Not clueless.
one of the
They knew what they
problems
wanted.
one of the problems the Cybermen have always faced being in a show like Doctor Who is their concept when you think about it, is actually terrifying and really
Yeah.
dark for what is essentially a children's show.
Well, the way you described it, I was like, oh, these guys are going to be so cool. And then it was kind of like, could
That's
be more.
the thing with the Cybermen is the concept is really good. The execution is lacking a lot of the time. The only stories that get them really right, because they're meant to be sort of this hodgepodge body horror thing, and it's not quite fully there in the design a lot of the time. And as
Yeah.
as the show got further, as it went on and got further away from the original Cyberman story, which was the first Doctor's last story, fun fact, um, sort of they just become men in tinfoil, basically.
Yeah.
It's a shame, but if you would like to see the Cybermen done better, Star Trek definitely ripped them off at one point and did their own spin on a race like the Cybermen. So if you ever want to watch Star Trek with me, we can look into that, because that shit's fucked up and it doesn't hold back on it.
Hmm. Maybe.
Alright, so gave your overall thoughts already. Alright, so let's do a quick comparison to the last story we watched, and then we'll end it, okay? So,
Alrighty.
overall, compared to the last story we watched, what was it about this one compared to the last one that made this one weaker in your eyes?
There seemed to be a lack of stuff going on. Like, when stuff was happening, they didn't really focus a lot on it. It was like very, it was like a lot of spurts of stuff going on, and then there was pretty much nothing going on. And I feel like it was kind of like a lot of nothing, and then it was like, oh, something happened, and then it was a lot of nothing towards the end.
Okay. Alright.
Whereas, like in the first one, um, it was kind of like in the beginning there was like you're like, oh, look what we found. We're kind of not supposed to be here, but that's okay. And then it was kind of like there was a lot of stuff happening that just kind of added on top of itself, which was like, how are they going to resolve all this now? And it made it kind of more grasping. Like
So
you wanted to have more.
So basically, your issue with this one was it was padded and didn't have a lot going on, while compared to the last one, it had a lot going on. And
Mm-hmm.
the fact that it had a lot going on in the 2 hours that it was allotted made it feel faster for you
Mm-hmm.
and a more all around a more enjoyable experience.
Yeah.
All right. So, we're going to end it here-ish. Is there anything you want to anything more you want to say about it, or are you good?
I think I'm okay.
All
Um,
right. Oop.
my cat's often getting into mischief, so.
All right. Well, lads and lasses watching the video, I will see
Glasses?
you. Huh?
Glasses?
Yeah.
Okay.
I will see you all. Wait a minute. Oh. All right, lads watching the video. I will see you all next time. I don't know what my next one is going to be. Oh no, I know what's coming out after this. 10th Doctor retrospective with Joey, Jacob, and Genesis of Androzani. So yeah, that's what's coming up next, and next
That was very
month
long time.
and next month should be my review of Genesis of the Daleks. So I will see you all then, and my girlfriend will see you all when we watch the third Doctor story, Spearhead from Space. We're getting into the color era, hun.
Wow.
It's not going to be in black and white anymore. Aren't you excited?
I mean, it doesn't really matter to me.
Because, okay.
If you were talking to my sister, she'd be like, wow.
Alright. I'll see you later, guys.
The story's still a story.
You want to say bye-bye?
Bye bye.
Alright, bye-bye.